Hello everybody. So stayed up a bit late last night, and by last night I mean 4:30 in the morning to watch the final of the World Cup. Now, I'd said before in my preview of sorts that I was hoping that it wouldn't be just a matter of win the toss and win the match, but well, that's what happened. And it's I'd love to be able to analyse it in isolation of that. And look, my team, it's my country, Australia, we won our first ever World Cup title, at least in 2020. I think we've won 4 in ODIs, but it might be 5 actually. But yeah, first one at least for the men's team in 2020s. I suppose we have a women's team now, so we should count them as well. I think they've won 5. But anyway, so I should be excited. 4:30 in the morning, I actually paid Foxtel, was it $30 a month for 2 months, so $60 for them to let me watch it. And they've kept it on to the 28th, so got an extra 2 weeks just of having it on and nothing to watch. And so I should be excited, but somehow just the pervasive thought that it could have been just win the toss, win the match has really got to me. I mean, if I ignore that, I can say, all right, well, Australia had 3 good bowlers out of 5. Mitchell Starc was, well, I mean, he incited a catch and that seemed to get him down, and when it was dropped, and then he was horrible after that. Well, his last over wasn't too bad, so he probably had 1.5 decent overs, 1.5 terrible overs, and 1 decent over at the end. And I mean, if he'd taken, if the catch had been caught, and I can't for the life of me remember who dropped it, but might have been Steve Smith, but anyway, whoever it was, if they'd caught it, I have no doubt that New Zealand's score would have been a lot lower, and would have been a very different match. Because I mean, I don't think Starc was bowling badly. He was just really angry with his teammates at losing a wicket, dropping the catch, and that's Mitchell Starc as a whole. He's a confidence player, so when things are going right, they go really right, and when they're going wrong, he can be terrible, and he was terrible. And 4 overs can be very unforgiving, and he went for 60 runs, 41 in 2 overs. I think he went 9, 18, 23, and then 10 at the end. So, and the one that was 18 could have been 1 wicket and 5 runs instead of no wickets and 18 runs. And so you can see how big a difference that made. And that was Kane Williamson, who ended up, he got 88 runs, I think it was. And of course the 5th bowler, as we call it, Australia's only really playing 4 proper bowlers, and that one went for a bit. I mean, Mitchell's Marsh we tried, and he does bowl occasionally reasonably well. Then we had Glenn Maxwell, and we could have used Marcus Stoinis, who at different points had been quite a good, a useful bowler, at least not good. And Steve Smith, who started out life, at least internationally, as a bowler, but hasn't been used for years. But yeah, so they went for quite a few runs. I thought Maxwell was reasonable, at least for his first couple of overs, but his third was pretty bad. But then we were carried a lot by Cummins, Hazlewood and Zampa, who all bowled really well. And I think Cummins was the best of those 3, but they were all really good. And there was a gap between those top 3 and the other 2, or the other 3, I guess. It was just, I didn't even want Starc to bowl the last over. I was like, well, take him off, bowl Steve Smith perhaps. I thought Maxwell, but then he didn't do so well, and the wheels were kind of falling off, although we still had those good bowlers who were able to bring it back, which was a great credit to them. And I thought for New Zealand's part, they really struggled early on, and I think they were something like, 30 after 6 overs. They'd lost the 2 wickets, I believe, but and then they were, 58 after 10 overs, so very slow going, but then they started to cut loose, but then the last few overs didn't really come off. So they had those 5 good overs between about 10 and 15 or so, and it was mainly Kane Williamson, and I don't think the fielding was bad except for that one drop catch. It was just more New Zealand took advantage of their opportunities and played really well for that period. So you'd probably say, 3 out of 5 of Australia's bowlers, so 60% were really good. And you'd say New Zealand's batsmen, for probably 15 overs out of the 20, were pretty bad. And that was in New Zealand's innings. So you'd probably say, if you're doing your percentages, you'd say, well, Australia were on top in New Zealand's innings by a fair bit, just in terms of percentages. Not so much the runs on the board, because New Zealand managed 172. But if you take it in terms of percentage of the match that they're ahead, Australia were. But of course, we've got to say, well, if you looked at the Bangladesh versus West Indies match, Bangladesh were ahead for 80% of the game, but still lost. So it's not always about percentages. And so that's how that went. And look, I thought in Australia's innings, we started off a bit slowly, cautiously, I guess. I wouldn't say we're out of it or anything, but obviously the Aaron Finch wicket early on was pretty bad. But then Mitchell Marsh came in, hit a 6 straight away, and David Warner I thought he was a bit risky with his play, but he got lucky. I thought Mitchell Marsh was playing a lot better than David Warner, but it was almost like Warner could take the risks because of how well Marsh was playing. And look, Marsh hasn't been that good this tournament, although he's been good this year. So it was a little bit of a surprise, but not a huge surprise. And then that was the partnership that just took Australia pretty much from the start to the end, and there wasn't much to do at the end after that. You could say there was one that was an LBW appeal that, we've got that whole rule about being too far forward and all that, but Warner could have easily got out. I don't even think that would have made a difference though, because we didn't get to any dangerous situations with Australia. We were in control the whole way through, at least in the second innings. And that's the thing. It wasn't a match that was ebbing and flowing. It was a match where Australia was on top of for most of New Zealand's batting innings, and for pretty much all of Australia's batting innings. It wasn't a massive margin on the day. I always talk about balls remaining and wickets remaining more than anything else. But I think there were 8 wickets remaining. But the main thing is the balls remaining, which there were 7, which is pretty comfortable, really. Not huge margin, but fairly comfortable. And it probably, if they'd been going for net run rate boosts, they could have finished a couple of overs earlier than that, taking a few more risks. I thought, I felt to myself and I was like, well, was this because we played better? And we probably did. Or was it because we'd won the toss? I'd love to take credit for it, but at the same time I've got to harp on about that whole win the toss, win the match thing. And Australia have lost, I think somebody put a statistic up, the last 5 2020 series we played. Most of them by quite big margins. The last 2 were 1-4 and 1-4 against Bangladesh and West Indies, neither of whom are ranked very high. And they're both ranked below Australia, and we lost to them both badly. Granted, they were away series, but we didn't have all of our best players in there, but still lost badly. And so, this whole tournament's been a massive upset for us. And somebody pointed out, well, we won every match we won the toss for. We lost every match we lost the toss. And, I wish that we could say more about that, but it looks like that's why we won the toss. But then again, had we lost the toss and lost the match, perhaps we should play twice. Once when we win the toss, once when we lose the toss, and then work out the difference. Maybe that'd be fairer. This toss thing needs to be sorted out. That shouldn't be what determines the winner. It should be who plays better, who's the better side, who has a bit of luck, but that luck shouldn't just be solely down to a toss of the coin. Otherwise, may as well just play coin flips. So I think we need to address that. I don't know exactly how, but it does need to be addressed. Because I don't feel that excited about that win. I'm like, well, did we really deserve it? I'm not sure that we did. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Look, it was probably overall a pretty good tournament though, but those last few matches, I felt like we had the wrong finalists. Should have been England and Pakistan. Would have been a much better match, I think, in the final. I don't think Australia or New Zealand had any business being in the final. And yeah, that would have been a really exciting match. and I think the toss situation ruined that for us. Yeah, that's it for me. Bye bye.